The bar that we've set for Darian Mensah and Miami's 2026 offense is astronomically high, but it's fair.
You are Locked On Canes, your daily podcast on the Miami Hurricanes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I am Alex Donno, University of Miami alumnus, co-host of Locked On ACC and host of Postgame on the Hurricanes Radio Network. And thank you so much to the everydayers for making Locked On Canes your first listen. We're available free wherever you get your podcasts. We're free on YouTube. We're part of the #1 Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Have your cake and drink it too. Birthday cake flavor is back. No fork needed. It's got that vanilla, cakey flavor, caffeinated kick, and no sugar. It's party time. Order now at 5hourenergy.com or on Amazon. On this loaded episode, I don't want to freak people out. Miami does not have an opening at defensive coordinator, just so you know. But we did get a question about who the next DC might be, if it's currently someone on the staff who might be getting prepared for that job in the future. We got a great question about the 2000 versus 2001 team. Two of the all-time greats, but one of them obviously won a championship, one didn't. Ruben Bain at the NFL Scouting Combine, I think, is saying all the right things in his interviews. Let's talk about Miami's offense and so much more. I have the pleasure of being joined by a great friend of mine and friend of the show, Rudy Tomarchio, who is my former cohort on WVUM student radio back in the day at the U. So, Rudy, first thing I'll ask you is we got this question from Everydayer Canes Comeback Tour. He says, hey, what do we expect out of our O-line in 2026? Which 2026 receiver as a true freshman can make a big splash? And Comeback Tour says he puts quarterback yards at 400 yards. Before we get to all that, are you of the mind, I think it's a pretty fair assumption, the 2026 offense should be better, even better than 2025, correct?
Happy Throwback Thursday for all of our jerseys here, going back to your college roots. Yeah, I would say I don't think it's a stretch to say that the offense is going to be better. I mean, look, we talked all about this last year when it came to the offense needing to find its rhythm. They did find its rhythm later in the year. They threw a bunch of trick plays out there to keep, the offense inspired. I think you're going to see, it may not be the Cam Ward offense of 2024, but you will see Miami have the ability again to change gears as it wants. I mean, I think the criticism during Miami's midseason struggle was they move too slow. They're just consistently trying to pound the ball up the middle. A gap for life, as some of our other friends like to say on the internet, for how they like to run the ball. We need to do things more outside. I think with this offense, regardless of the offensive line makeup different from last year, obviously, but the thing that's really nice is when you have a guy like Alex Mirabal and you have your head coach who's an offensive lineman, your offensive line identity is more after their personalities than it is about the makeup of the people who were there. So you plug in SJL Faituli, you plug in Jackson Cantwell, you should be getting a similar type of production out of them that you expect out of the rest of the offensive line. That's why they're always cross-trained for what they do. So we can run fast when we need to. We can grind out clock when we need to. At least that's the theory.
Yeah, no, I 1,000% agree, and I'm not as worried about the offensive line as some people are, and I'll say Mario Cristobal doesn't seem all that worried about it because he knows what he has in that room. Like, he knows that Max Buchanan is on his way to becoming a monster. Like, he knows Jackson Cantwell has a chance to have the CeCe Mauigoa type of true freshman impact this year. He knows what he's got already with Samson Okunlola and Matt McCoy and company. So I think the offensive line is going to be really good. And you talked about the coaching and the cross-training that they get from Alex Mirabal. Coach Mirabal, who got that endorsement a couple weeks ago, we had Edwin Pata on the show who worked under Coach Mirabal here at Miami for a couple of seasons. And Ed, assured me if there's any coach who's going to make sure his guys build the chemistry and play as a unit, immediately, despite 4 new starters, Coach Mirabal he's the guy to do that. And Rudy, I strongly believe there's more firepower on this offense than there was last year. You get Malachi Toney in his second season, coming off a 1,200-yard year. You're in a rare situation where you've got 2 receivers coming off of 1,000+ yard seasons, bringing in Cooper Barkate off an 1,100-yard year. And even though Barkate's a transfer, he already knows his quarterback better than Miami's other receivers know their quarterback, having played with him at Duke last year. And the running back room it's basically the same as it was last year, and it's super loaded. So I went back and looked at last year's average per game. Regular season, Miami scored 34.1 points per game last year. I think we can get that number around 40 this year.
I hope so. I mean, the one thing I would say is you're bringing in a lot of size in the wide receiver room to complement Malachi Toney being the baby Jesus that he is. I think the one thing that I do love about this wide receiver core, outside of the diversity in size and range and your ability of targeting short yardage situations, middle of the field, deep shots. I love their commitment to run blocking. It's something that you saw with the wide receiver inserts when we're running in between the tackles, but like you have a group of guys who have all signed up to say you have to block down the field because your running game is going to open up your end too. I want to give Edwin Pattis some flowers real quick. Not the flowers behind me. Those are for my girlfriend. Happy Valentine's Day. They're getting there, but I know it's probably a really tough week for that family, given what's going on in the courtroom, how that's playing out. Sure. And I first met Edwin. It had to be a month or two after Brian's murder, because they did the all cane shopping spree with him and his mom. And yeah, just heart goes out to them. So I love to see that they're doing well and that he's still a good friend of the program and friend of the show, which is good to see.
Yeah, he's a great dude, Ed Pat. And listen, I'm campaigning for him, but I'd love to see him back at Miami, possibly as the tight ends coach. But so another part of that question from Kane's comeback tour, in terms of freshman wide receivers, because we seem to see that every year. And obviously last year, Malachi Toney, not only was he a breakout freshman receiver, he was one of the best receivers in the country last year. Miami's got experience in that room. I mentioned Toney, Barkate. You bring in Dre Jacobs and Cam Vaughn as experienced transfers. Josh Moore heading into his second year. Dalen Upshaw. So you've got some experience in that room. But I still think Samori and Wingo, especially, maybe Milan Paris as well, could end up having some impact on that room, Rudy. Do you see any, despite there's like 6 upperclassmen who are going to be, eating up spots on that depth chart, do you see any true freshmen breaking through this year?
I mean, I'm high on Milan Paris as well. I mean, anyone who's got size like that, it's something
6'6".
Hey, all I know is that adds extra red zone offense to you as well. If you want to pound up the middle, you can. If you want to throw an end zone fade, corner fade, great. You can do that too, because you got the size advantage. I think it's one of those things where this is why you bring in a veteran quarterback like a Darian Mensah, because even though it's a one and done, I understand all the pros and cons. There's such a thing as having rhythm with your receivers. And when you have a guy like Cooper Barkate, who he knows, like you mentioned already, I think there's something to be said about, yes, number of snaps on the field is important to get rhythm with your quarterback, with your offensive system. But at a certain point, you're going to confuse the hell out of defenses if they don't know who else they have to double cover. If they are they going to focus on Malachi Toney? Are they going to focus on Cooper Barkate? If you can get a guy like a Milan Paris who's going to fly under the radar under everybody who's not wearing a U on their chest, watching what they're doing, that's a great problem to have. That was where Keelan Marion was so vital to us in that playoff run, because it's starting to key in on 1 or 2 receivers. CJ Daniels being known for having the highlight catches and for having the screens. Malachi Toney in his late season, becoming primary target number 1. All right, cool. Well, they can't double everybody. Keelan Marion opens up and starts consistently making those catches for us. So now it's someone else's turn to do that exact same thing.
Love it. When we come back, among other things, I want Rudy and I to tackle a question we got from a member of the Everydayer Club. And by the way, if you want to become an Everydayer, click the link in the show notes below or go to lockedoncanes.supercast.com. 2000 versus 2001 team, because we all talk about 01, greatest college football team of all time, but our Everydayer is arguing he thought 2000 was even better. You want to keep it locked right here. We're only getting started on this brand new episode of Locked On Canes. Folks, this episode is proudly brought to you by FanDuel. Have you ever wanted to experience an NBA Finals live and in person? Yeah, FanDuel is giving you the chance to turn that dream into reality with their NBA sweepstakes. Here's how it works. Use your profit boost on any NBA future, and you'll automatically be entered for a shot to win an NBA Finals trip for 2. That's right, flights, tickets, the whole experience. if you've already been looking at the board and thinking about which team can make a deep run, it's the perfect time to lock it in. Now, not only can your pick cash, but it can also send you to the finals. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Use your profit boost on an NBA future and get entered for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA.
I'm Kalia Butler, host of Locked On Women's Basketball, and this is Mazda's Women's Basketball Snapshot, celebrating the work no highlight reel can ever capture. South Carolina rolled past Ole Miss 85-48 to clinch a share of the SEC regular season title and lock down the number 1 seed in the conference tournament. The Gamecocks extended their win streak over Ole Miss to 21 straight. UCLA dominated Wisconsin 80-60 to secure its first outright Big Ten regular season championship in program history. The Bruins improved to 27-1 overall and remain unbeaten in conference play. And number 12 TCU stormed back from a 13-point fourth quarter deficit to beat Iowa State 80-73. The Horned Frogs now sit alone atop the Big 12 standings and are 1 win away from clinching another regular season conference crown. These moments are earned off the clock, those long before the lights ever come on. The sweat, the fakes, the doubt, the scrapes, and coming back for more every time. Mazda puts that same drive into every detail. Wins define the moment, putting in the work, that defines you. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you.
Thank you so much for making Locked On Canes your first listen. And we're answering questions from the Everydayer Club members today, the All Access members. One-on-one texting with me is one of the awesome features. You also get exclusive episodes of the Canes Colada, exclusive Locked On Canes newsletters, and so many other awesome features. Go to lockedoncanes.supercast.com to become an All Access Everydayer today. And all right, this was the type of question that Rudy and I were born to answer because we are both several decades long super fans of the University of Miami. We're old. We've been there since the 80s, right? So we get this question from Nick from New Jersey who says, hey, this is the time of year everyone adds the previous year's national championship team amongst the quote-unquote best college football teams ever. He says, am I the only one who believes wholeheartedly that the 2000 team was better than the 2001 team? Hear me out, he says. The 2000 team had Santana Moss, Reggie Wayne, Dan Morgan, Al Blades, James Jackson. Most importantly, he says, who are you taking, Butch Davis or Larry Coker? Before I give you the floor, Rudy, let me say one thing. I can kind of meet Nick and Jersey in the middle on this one. I think top to bottom of the roster, I think the 2000 team maybe was more talented just in terms of the players they had because, Clinton Portis kind of broke out that season, but he got even better, the following year in 2001. Andre Johnson was on that 2000 team as a freshman, didn't play a whole lot, but, if you were to take Andre in his prime playing alongside Santana Moss and Reggie Wayne, who both graduated that year, yeah, I think you could argue maybe the 2000 team had technically more talent top to bottom of the roster, but they just didn't perform the same way that the 01 team did. What say you?
Yeah, let's go back in the time machine real quick and let's refresh our memories from that era of Miami football. I think the 2000 team, yes, the names on that roster are just as impressive, in some cases more impressive. Let's remember a couple things. Larry Coker called the plays for that offense. He didn't come out of nowhere. He was on that staff with Butch Davis. Butch Davis, known as, the greatest recruiter of all time. Mario Cristobal is trying to take that title from him right now when it comes to Miami football. Miami in 2000 lost to Washington on the road. That was kind of a, contentious game. Some people thought some things didn't go our way that should have happened. I would argue that if you lined up the two teams against each other, the 2000 team in 2000 and the 2001 team in 2001, and had them face off against each other, so Bizarro Ed Reed against Bizarro Ed Reed from the two secondaries, I think that 01 team still wins. And I
agree.
I only say that because it took what happened in the year 2000, that loss to Washington, getting screwed over by the BCS computers, by beating the living hell out of Florida on Bourbon Street, and then again in the Sugar Bowl to really galvanize that Miami roster. It took Butch Davis leaving for a lot of these guys to say, all right, well, it's on us now. We're going to police ourselves. Larry's going to keep the ship together and keep the roster together because, like, let's go back in the documentary. That was when the rumors were like, oh, Barry Alvarez is going to come coach this team. Oh, great. So now we're going to hand the ball off 62 times in a game instead of using our system. Guys would have left if they hired a new coach. So that's 100%. Why Larry Coker came in. I still think 2001 is the greatest team of all time. Let's look at the roster of the talent underneath that came in afterwards. So you lost a couple of players from that 2000 team, like Damian Lewis, for example. You gained Vince Wilfork.
Yeah.
You gained Sean Taylor.
Yeah.
You gained guys. We're like, yes, Dan Morgan in 2000 was a better middle linebacker possibly than Jonathan Vilma.
Possibly.
Because, I mean, you talk about the Butkus. I mean, he won the Butkus and Nagurski. Like, he swept the defensive player awards. It's the makeup of the entire team. And I know you and we spoke about this before going on the air. We're hoping that the 2025 playoff run does a similar thing to inspire the 2026 Canes.
Yeah, that's really well said. And again, like, and some of the same players that were on the 2000 team versus 01 just got better with more experience the next year. Like Ken Dorsey was better in 01 than he was in 2000. Some of the offensive linemen who were young in 2000 were better in 01 and so on. But I like the way you bridge that you hope that we have our own 2000 to 01 transition from 2025 to 2026. I thought that was well said.
I appreciate it. Let's just put a caveat real quick, because I can already see like the comment section is going to be like, they think it's going to be 2001. That's never happening again. The accumulation of talent that was that team, the number of first rounders, the number of Hall of Famers that will be all said and done after this will probably never happen again. But I would love to see that outcome again of being like a number 2 in the end of the year to then become number 1 the next year.
Well, and listen, and similar to those 2 years, like Miami is losing guys from 2025, like Ruben Bain, who, man, I thought with the comments that he made in his various combine interviews, freaking nailed it. So it's like, Miami's losing Bain and they're losing Mesidor, but we still think the defense is going to be really good this upcoming year because of the way that they're reloading. But something on Bain, Rudy, have you been following all this chatter? Like, people on the internet are trying to tear him down because allegedly his arms are too short to play defensive end in the league. Now, so Bain was asked about it a couple times yesterday when he arrived at Indy. And, his answer, and it seemed like this was, completely straightforward and transparent. Like, teams don't seem to be concerned about it. Like, when they're talking with Bain, like, the arm length isn't coming up. Like, Bain, I think rightfully is getting the sense from NFL teams that, with his motor, with his bend, with his versatility, because he's also an elite run stopper, which people don't talk about because they focus only on the pass rushing, that, Bain does enough other things, and he's such a special talent. Force of nature is the way my friend Kelvin Harris describes him, that you're not going to scrutinize his arms being like a quarter inch too short when he's the complete package as a prospect. And I think he's going to end up being a top 5 pick. Maybe the Titans take him at number 4. Maybe even the Jets take him at number 2.
I would argue that he gains extra arm length because you have to count the length of the offensive tackle he's pushing back as an extra tackler. How many times have you seen where he sets the edge and he's stopping the run, where he may not wrap the guy with his arm, but he just uses the other offensive lineman to block the way through because he's just he's just that powerful. Yeah, I think that's just a load of crap. Like, let's just put it what it is. I think what teams are interested in Ruben Bain, as you mentioned, his motor, his bend, his explosiveness. At the end of the day, too, it's the mentality of like, people are going to say whatever they want, but go ahead, spot the ball. Put me against your best offensive lineman in practice. I will embarrass them over and over again. Will the Titans take him? Sure hope so. They have a good track record now with Miami talent coming in, and a guy like Jeffrey Simmons, I'm sure, could not be more excited to have somebody join him on the defensive line to say, he's already on the record by saying, I want to stay in Tennessee because I see the future with Cam Ward as a leader here.
Yeah.
To have another guy from that same mindset, that same philosophy, that same level of talent and competition, he'd be happy to have a guy like Ruben Bain line up with him.
Yeah, and like you're saying, like when Ruben has actually lined up in college games against future NFL offensive tackles, he's made these guys look silly. So it's like, okay, so he goes up against Trey Zune III at Texas A&M, and he gives Zune more problems than any other defensive end has given Zune. You're telling me that's not a preview of what's going to happen in the NFL when this is a top NFL prospect at O-line? Bain and Mesidor giving Notre Dame's offensive line their worst PFF grades of the season by far. Like, that's not a coincidence, man. All right, let's see some other questions here from the Locked On Canes everydayers. All right, here's one, and I know that the headline there in the rundown is freaking people out. Next defensive coordinator is Corey Heatherman leaving. He's not. It freaked out Rudy a little bit. Corey Heatherman's not leaving. But at some point, I think Heatherman, whether it's a year, 2, 3 years down the road, is going to end up getting a promotion somewhere. Jeff wants to know, hey, I keep thinking about how good Coach Heatherman is and how lucky we are to have him as long as we will. Hopefully he's grooming a successor who can run his defense when he leaves to become a head coach. Who do you think his successor might be? Okay, if it's somebody on the staff, Rudy, I think it could be Jason Taylor. Like, if you're, and who knows, if and when that job ever comes open, it's not open now, let me reiterate, but a year, 2, 3 years down the road when Miami's looking for a new DC, I think Jason Taylor might be the guy who ends up being the one to seamlessly transition.
Yeah, I know there's been a lot of off-season chatter about Jason Taylor, people scared that he might leave or go somewhere else. I think something that's really important to play out here is not everyone wants to be a head coach. And I think when it comes to a guy like Jason Taylor, I don't know him personally, but just from seeing his path from being this Hall of Fame NFL defensive end with the Dolphins to high school coaching, to now being with the University of Miami. He's not a Miami guy. A lot of the mainstream media think he's a Miami alum too. Nope, sorry. Nope. Akron Zip right there, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Rest in peace, Rubber Bowl, Akron Zip, Jason Taylor. I see him if it's one of those things where could he become the next defensive coordinator? If Jason Taylor wants to. He's been a guy as a player and as a coach where whatever he sets himself to do, whatever he sets his mind out to do, he will be the best at it. Right now, he's the best defensive ends coach we have. Could he do the entire defensive line? Sure, if Jason Taylor wants to. If he wants to stay our defensive ends coach for the rest of his, coaching career, couldn't be happier for it. So yeah, I think it would be great to have. And I think it's something that it's nice to see guys with roots in South Florida who also don't want to leave. They love this lifestyle. The program fits what they're doing as of right now with this coaching staff. It's nice to have that as a sucker for history too. It's nice to have another former Miami Dolphin with NFL experience bringing that down to the University of Miami football program like Earl Morrall did with the quarterbacks back with Howard Schnellenberger, who also came from the Dolphins.
I've noticed our fan base loves to worry about which coaches are leaving because I'm also getting questions about Jay Lucas, like as if he's going to leave Miami before the tournament starts or something. You want to keep it locked right here. We're not done yet on this brand new episode of Locked On Canes. Folks, the biggest stretch of the college basketball season is almost here. Buzzer beaters, bracket busters, and those unforgettable moments that everyone's talking about the next day. Being there live for something like that, that's bucket list stuff. The hard part is always actually getting the tickets. Long queues, prices jumping around at checkout, surprise fees. The Game Time app gives the advantage back to the fans with constant innovation. It's how you unlock amazing tickets and experiences in just a few taps. It's incredibly simple to use. The Game Time guarantee means 100% legitimate tickets delivered on time at the best price. And here's the best part. Fees are included in the price you see. What you see is what you pay, period. Guys, suddenly Miami basketball has become a really hot ticket because this team is almost certainly NCAA tournament bound, and they're going to have a high seed in the ACC tournament as well. The seat view feature on Game Time is a game changer. You can see a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. No stress, no guesswork, just a smooth experience from start to finish. That's exactly what you want during the busiest part of the season. So take the guesswork out of buying college basketball tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create your account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code Locked On, all one word, Locked On, for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Folks, Welcome to the 5-Hour Energy Flavor Draft. With 18 different flavors to choose from, including new options like Confetti Craze, Fruity Rainbow, or Cotton Candy, there is something for everyone. The board is set, the flavors are ready, and I've got my number one pick in the 5-Hour Energy Flavor Draft. To me, the Ruben Bain of this draft, who I feel should be the first overall pick, this will be my first overall pick in the 5-Hour Draft, is berry. Classic flavor. I've been drinking it for decades with the big, bold berry flavor. Classic mixed berry with notes of raspberry and blackberry. It's smooth and it's timeless. And my sleeper in this draft, my Chianti Scott, is that blue raspberry flavor. Sweet and tangy with a taste that nature couldn't make but should have. Folks, you want to be checking out these awesome flavors. Find your new favorite of 5-Hour Energy shots available online at 5hourenergy.com or on Amazon. Thank you for making Locked On Canes your first listen. For your next listen, make sure you check out Locked On ACC. Kenton Gibbs and I take you around the conference. We talked yesterday about yet another quarterback suing the NCAA for more eligibility. Chandler Morris of Virginia. It never seems to end, but we're talking Miami Hurricanes here with Rudy Tomarchio. All right, so Rudy got this question. I think I can answer this pretty confidently from our everydayer, Sherry. Happy Friday, Junior, she says, is what she calls Thursday. I kind of like that. Have you heard any updates on Shelton Henderson's injury? So Shelton, like it looked bad in that Florida State game, but he came back and he finished the game. So I think, as far as I know, Shelton's good. Like you're not gonna let him come back and finish out that game if there was a long-term concern. So I think he's good to go, because Sherry notes Miami is not that deep. Like, they're not as deep as some of the other prospective tournament teams out there. We're going to need Shelton Henderson's full availability in the postseason, and I think we're going to get it, Rudy.
I sure hope so. I mean, it's been a fun ride to watch what men's basketball has done this year. I know they had a heartbreaker against Virginia over the weekend where it was right down to the wire. There was kind of a tic-tac foul that happened, but like the disrespect they're getting with the national rankings right now. They've beaten multiple ranked teams, still not in there. Hey, as long as they have a high seed in the tournament, in the conference tournament, I still think Miami's clearly getting in, and they might make a run, which is all I can ask for.
Yeah, here's a football question that I don't have an answer for it, except for my assumed answer. ITK wants to know, hey, is there any fallout or changes in special teams coaching after the performance in the national championship game? As you probably know, like, special teams coaching is handled by individuals who are technically analysts. Like, they don't have like specific on-field roles, but analysts are allowed to work hands-on with players in practice. And, you know, obviously there were certain things about Miami's special teams last year that were improved in terms of like coverage. But then obviously there's no excuse for that missed block on the blocked punt. So, you know, my answer is Mario Cristobal is always reflecting on, you know, big picture mistakes and small picture mistakes. And I assume a full evaluation is in progress. I don't know exactly if they're changing any of the individuals who are responsible for coaching special teams. But one thing's for sure, Rudy, I never want something like that to happen again. Like a blocked punt that costs you 7 points in a national championship game, you lose by 6 points. It's fair to say none of us ever want to see that happen again.
Yeah, I was sitting in the upper deck in that end zone where the block took place. The only thing I can go back, like, let me just like go past the PTSD for a second. I'm still really happy with how the game ended in terms of like, other than losing, it was nice to have the ball with the chance to score to win the national championship at the end. The one thing I would say about it is you don't know if that's coaching or if that's just a one player, the moment got too big for them.
Yeah.
I don't want to put Alex Bauman on blast again, because I know like he's been dragged through the mud over the course of the season, but when you're running punt safe, as Indiana was, and there's just something I would say it's more player error than it was a coaching philosophy on that end. Not to that did not lose you the game. Let's just put it that way. You had a chance to win at the end. That's the coin flip that there was. That's why it should have been like a 3.5 point margin. Yes, that is the catalyst that ended up winning the game for Indiana, but there's nothing to say, oh, if we block that punt, if we don't have that punt blocked, we win, because that was kicking into the wind which was really, really bad that day. If we remember what it was like out there, it was really cold. I was an icicle. I also remember how good the wind was going the opposite direction. So if you were kicking from east to west, that was the punt that set up the punt block. Because remember, this was the trick play that Miami had set up on special teams for Malachi Toney to lateral the ball to somebody who was wide open with blockers that could probably spring us. So is it that Bauman missing the block caused us to lose the game? Or is it that punter outkicked his punt an extra 15, 20 yards to keep us from possibly scoring to win the game on that one? So that's where you're going to take every game's going to have its moments where you could have added more points, and every game's going to have its moments where you could have lost a few more points.
I got one more thing to ask you to help me prepare and also to promote. So I'm going to be on an upcoming episode of Crane and Cone, and so they're doing their new debate series, and I willfully accepted this challenge. I'm going to be debating a national Notre Dame writer as to why Miami is going to win a championship before Notre Dame wins their next one. And so I just listen. I have plenty to say about why I'm bullish on the U heading into this upcoming season. But I mean, any advice for me, Rudy? Because I would imagine the Notre Dame side of the debate is going to get very pompous. It's going to be very dismissive of Miami. Any advice for me on how I should handle myself in this debate?
Oh, 100%. Well, one, let's take a cue out of Mario Cristobal's book, because you mentioned earlier he doesn't seem worried about the offensive line. I would argue you are seeing a side of Mario Cristobal that nobody has ever seen before by just taking shots at everybody like Kirby Smart and going out in the media. And for the guy who is so insistent on the rat poison ideology, I know it's early. It's February. Most of the things that they say now, no one's going to remember in August. But his confidence is one thing, but talking about Notre Dame specifically, they need to worry about Indiana. They're not the best team in Indiana right now. Do Notre Dame fans honestly think that the way Notre Dame handled their offseason is good in the eyes of potential recruits, in the eyes of anybody that's looking into Notre Dame football? Their last national championship was 1988, because Cleveland Gary didn't fumble. So you're welcome for having your last national championship. Okay, that's the last time Notre Dame was really in it. How many times have they been in the title game and have been exposed since? Last year they made it to the title game. Okay, great. We ended that myth pretty early this season. They were in there in 2015 with Manti Te'o, or whatever year that was.
2012, I think.
2012, even longer ago.
Yeah.
No, I think it was Eddie Lacy that had a spin move that ended his career before it even started.
That's
right. Okay, so let's go back and see every time you think Notre Dame football is going to be relevant because, they've got great, offensive, defensive lines like Miami do. It just takes one of the Power 4 teams to go and show that that's not the case. Their schedule is not what it should be. Will they make the playoff?
Nope.
Sure.
Yeah. They better.
They have how many rules now going their way? They're the one that's financially had the heads up over every Power 4 team, because while the talk about, Alabama having to split 70 million with, 14 other teams in the SEC, or Ohio State having to do that, Miami not having to do that in the ACC with its playoff revenue, Notre Dame gets 100% share of $50 million a year from NBC Sports. So they've had this money for over a decade now to up their program, and they haven't done it yet. Is it possible that they win a championship before Miami? Sure, but Miami's trending really, really high right now. So if you're going to pick between those two teams, Miami's pretty obvious.
I think I might have to tag you in, during the debate. I'm going to be Counselor, I rest my case. I will tag in Rudy for the rest of the argument.
We'll just say that's a belated happy birthday to the truth teller. We've learned everything about how we conduct ourselves in court from that guy.
Yeah, and I don't. So his birthday was either yesterday or the day before. I hardly ever go on Facebook, so I had thankfully I happened to see something that indicated to me it was his birthday, and I gave him a call, but I almost forgot. Now, he almost forgot mine last year, so it goes both ways. But happy belated birthday to the truth teller. Huge thank you to our guy, Rudy. Make sure you follow him on X at Rudy Tomarchio. Make sure you follow me at Alex Donno and Locked On Canes. Make sure you become an all-access everydayer. Go to lockedoncanes.supercast.com, and we'll talk to you next time. We'll have another episode later today. I'm going to have professional stand-up comic Michael Yo critique Mario Cristobal's comedy skills when he roasted Kirby Smart. We'll talk to you guys next time on another episode of Locked On Canes. We are part of the #1 Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.